All right. Hey, guys. Welcome to the show. My name is Spencer, and I will be your semi-quarantined host for today's episode of Expat Soup. Once again, we're coming to you live here from Jimmy V's in Yangzhou, China, not Wuhan.
We're in a slightly different corner than usual.
Yeah. This is a special edition of the podcast. We got mic stands now, so we're moving on up.
To be honest, we've had these for a while. We've just never found a reason to use them. But
True. We got time now. Today's guest is... wait, there is no guest. We are here today to talk about quarantine life, because we've got a little more experience than most of our listeners.
No, you were right. To listener.
Love you, Mom. So yeah, we're gonna talk to you a little bit about our experience here in China. I think it began around late January. Is that about right?
For the quarantine, yeah. I think February the 1st was when we were kind of locked down.
There was some rumblings around mid-January, like, oh, there's this thing, there's this new, they called it some new pneumonia. I think that was the first kind of name for it. And
it got referred to SARS a lot at the time because it is a similar disease.
And mid-January, nobody was really taking it seriously here, and it was just kind of a thing you heard somebody say, or you saw an article, and you just swiped away from it. Started to get real around kind of late January. And then like I said, like early Feb. I think maybe not Feb the 1st, but certainly the first week of February. And it coincided with the Chinese New Year, which is a break time for everybody. So everybody was already off of work, so they didn't really have to cancel work right away. But we found out soon that work would be canceled. My school said we would be going back to work by like February 8th.
Yeah, it was pushed back. Like my school, I work in a state school, not a private training center, so our holiday is longer anyway. But ours just kept getting pushed back every couple of weeks. Oh, it'll be 2 more weeks. Oh, it'll be like 3 more weeks. Oh, it'll be 1 more week. But I'm still not back at school.
And obviously everybody wanted to get back to work, but the government obviously stepped in and said, no, we're going to shut everything down.
And they did. Like, very essential stuff, everything was.
It was overnight, shut down everything, everybody stay inside, and it wasn't really an option. You could go out one at a time. Each neighborhood had a little card, and you could leave once every 2 days, and you had to get a temperature check leaving and entering any place that you went. And the only places that were open were the supermarket.
Maybe some smaller shops.
Like little street side shops.
Fruit and veg places were open as well. Where I was.
So basically food and necessity establishments were still open.
Those supermarkets do have everything. Like normal supermarkets, they have everything you might need for daily use.
And
and they were pretty well stocked as well.
The only shortages I came across, which was only like for a few days, was like some chicken breasts.
Instant noodles were sold out massively.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, it didn't affect us.
I wasn't searching for those.
Exactly. A lot of Chinese people were buying instant noodles. Salt was quite sparse in some places. But then a lot of the daily produce that you have to replace daily, like eggs and meat, were restocked quite frequently, I feel.
Yeah. And there wasn't such a panic. In the first week or two, I didn't go to the supermarket. I was just too freaked out. I went to my little small corner shop and ate like garbage for 2 weeks. But everything was stocked there. And it was like...
Shout out to Lawson.
Lawson's great shop chain. Everything was open. Everything was stocked there pretty well. And it's basically a gas station.
Yeah.
But it was like 2 minutes away walk. I didn't have to. I was just scared around.
So you didn't cook
crowds.
that much in the first few weeks?
No, I basically survived off of like those fake hot dogs that are just highly processed bullshit.
Yeah.
I ate those. And I can never even look at them anymore. I loved them for the first few days. I was like, this is awesome.
This is my thing now.
I made some like mustard, mayonnaise, ketchup, cool sauce, and I thought I was like Anthony Bourdain.
Just mixing sauces.
Yeah. But anyways, the food, and there was no toilet paper shortages. Like I don't get the Australia U.S. thing, but with the toilet paper, what is?
It's not a thing. It's not.
What's
the
the
virus
deal?
doesn't make you go to the bathroom more often. You're not likely to need more.
I just said, what's the deal with toilet paper?
What's the deal? Hey, what's the deal with toilet paper?
But really, use wet wipes. It's much better. So the food, the toilet paper, everything was pretty well stocked here. There was. Did you go to the supermarket?
Yeah. So where I was,
I was a shop boy.
We're in a smaller community. It's not like a lot of high rises. And there are a bunch of us in one household that got this one card, and this one card allows one, maybe two people to leave the community to go do shopping and then come back. You can't send everyone. So like I told Spencer, like some of the Chinese people were being a bit dramatic. Like you go to the shop, they're actually saying goodbye because they don't think they're gonna see you again. Please come back soon.
Everywhere you went, there was a very stringent test to get in and out. I mean, I say stringent, but it was a temperature check. But
not just that, you got the QR codes as well, which is something I don't think the West does at all.
You either have to give your phone number and your name and address on a piece of paper, or do a QR code with all your information.
The QR code's pretty good because it's connected to all of your ID, and it shows a list of everywhere you've been, and then says if you've failed or passed the test in other places. So if you failed the test somewhere, that's like on a record then, and other places are going to refuse you entry to something. I don't know anyone that's failed it personally because it's a self-filled in form that says that you tell them if you have it. But at least it's there, right? At least it's a checkpoint that I don't think exists in Western places at the moment.
Well, yeah, just WeChat in general is just this all-encompassing app that...
It's the best. We're going to do an episode on WeChat in the future, I think, because I don't think a lot of Western people understand how good it is.
It's extremely convenient and...
So good.
But also kind of scary, and so we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of... basically, let's go back to they shut things down overnight here. And the kind of dichotomy with the West of slowly shutting things down and people slowly starting to get it. Here it was like immediately, this is kind of scary. And it was a little bit of a freak out every day for at least 3 or 4 days for myself.
I mean, you when we were speaking off air a moment ago, you hit it directly on the head when you said that when you have this type of government in China and the kind of population who don't question their government, things like this can happen so quickly, and it doesn't take a lot of time. And
there's no red tape,
right?
It's just red.
You don't need to negotiate with your populace if they just do what you say anyway, or have conspiracy theories flying around.
It's one of the pros of having a authoritarian dictatorship. You can do things quickly.
Yeah, things get implemented when they should, or they get implemented quickly, regardless if they should. But
right, yeah, there's a lot that of course shouldn't, but that's neither here nor there.
I for one am very. I mean, I'm kind of it's a sense of pride, I guess, but the community is everywhere where I was anyway had checkpoints. They have people at the entrances of every community with some old people getting some small amounts of cash to just check people going in and out. And that's everywhere. Like you said, overnight. That's incredible.
And China definitely, it came from China. They definitely fucked the dog at the beginning of it by silencing people, etc., and kind of trying to sweep it under the rug. So that's definitely a fault. But after that first wave of denial and...
which is in late December at that point. That's
right.
When it first started.
They finally, just got the message and shut things down. And here we are roughly 2 months later, and there's been no cases in Yangzhou for weeks and weeks.
And Jiangsu, the province we're in, has had 0 deaths. The whole province, which is 82 million people. So
it's like you can kind of go about it 2 ways. You can shut everything down, take it seriously, and things will get back to normal quicker, or you can kind of slowly shut things down, and some people are still going to go to work. Some things will still be up and running, but it's going to last longer.
Yeah.
And who knows if there's a second wave coming, God forbid. But they're obviously taking super careful steps to ensure that that doesn't happen.
Of course. And I mean, maybe they're being overprotective, but they've closed all borders now, basically. No one foreign can enter China, regardless of if you have a visa that predates this problem. If you are a foreign national, you can't come into China right now. The ones here are okay, which we might talk about in a minute, but they're not forcing people out, but they're not letting people in.
But basically, one of the messages here today is that we made it through the storm, and it was super scary and super sketchy and unrelenting at times, but we made it through, and it is possible to mitigate this virus if the correct precautions are taken.
I don't think people need to be scared. I think you just need to
be careful.
Be careful. Pay attention to what people tell you to do. Washing your hands.
Yeah.
Wearing
Basic
a mask
stuff.
if you can. Stay inside.
And
just be smart.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear mongering and sensationalism out there for sure. So I would say just what I did. I'm sure you've seen this and heard this already 1,000 times, but basically just don't watch the news all day.
Yeah. They're built to tell you bad news, and bad news heard a lot is scary, and it's not what you want to hear. And some sources are more trusted than others. Some will sensationalize it more than they should as well.
So let's talk a little bit about what quarantine life was like, and everybody else that's watching this is experiencing kind of firsthand what we went through for 2 months. We went through a month of strict lockdown, and then things kind of slowly started to come back to life.
Yeah. In America now, they've been in lockdown for almost 2 weeks or a week and a bit, I think.
Kind of soft lockdown.
Yeah. And in the UK, it's also in the first week of lockdown. Some other places I don't even think have an enforced lockdown, like Australia and stuff. So, yeah.
Sorry.
What? No.
I was just going to say that we'll do some basic stuff that everybody knows. First, video games are a huge help. The boozing helps and it doesn't. I had to kind of, after a few days, I had to regulate my booze intake and start making a plan or schedule of which days.
See, I've seen the timetable. It's a lot of booze.
Yeah. So the first week, I'd say, I played Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a
good game.
Cowboy game. And, of course, while I was playing it, I would drink Jameson.
Of course.
And that actually helped pass the time wonderfly.
But to be fair, that's immersion in the
in
Western
a different
world. Yeah.
Right. But there's no tonic for this virus or snake oil. I'm sure there's a bunch of literal snake oil in China.
Yeah.
But
video games are very good. I think I've completed 6 games since mid-January now.
It's a good time to play some games that you've been putting off.
Yeah.
If you
and
have
you can
them.
actually put attention into it. I finally finished The Witcher 3, which is an old game, but it's a huge game.
Yeah.
And I finally finished it.
I've switched back to the Mario Odyssey game. I'm trying to get all the stars, all the whatever background stuff.
This is a good... I think creative outlets are very important. Video games being one of them. Reading a book. Reading is so fantastic at this point as well.
I still refuse to read Infinite Jest, though. It's just...
not that diet yet.
No. Yeah, I'd need at least 6 months in quarantine to
anything
crack
you
that
can,
one.
Put your creativity into. It doesn't need to be reading or video games. It can be painting a picture, drawing a picture, writing something.
Mm-hmm.
Write that blog you've always wanted to write, or read some poetry. Just doing something to keep your mind busy. I think that's the main thing. You can watch TV, but if you're not engaged, your mind's going to get very bored, and then you get into danger of depression and anxiety levels going up.
I was in I went downhill immediately the first 4 or 5 days. Then the Jameson and video games brought me back up a little, but that was just a mirage, and I went back down.
Alcohol is always temporary, my friend.
But then after about a week, time blurs together.
For sure.
Days blur together.
You don't know what day it is anymore.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Days aren't a thing anymore.
It's just daytime, nighttime.
Right, and the sleep schedule gets way thrown off. Staying up all night, sleeping all day, and but it does get normal at a certain point where you're not depressed. I mean, if you're clinically depressed, that's a different story. But quarantine depression does get better after kind of you get into this weird, strange, kind of surreal groove.
Mine was like I got into a funk, but then I managed to pull myself out by just waking up earlier. Like I didn't do anything, but just being able to see a blue sky, and not even if I can't go out into it, it's nice.
I'm still sleeping all day, so.
But to be fair, that's not much different than your normal life.
Yeah, true. But I would say that instead of, this is going to go against everything this video is about, but instead of listening to other people,
just listen to us
and giving them a and taking their plan and making it, if you make your own plan and you check off your own list, that gives you more gratification than kind of doing something because somebody told you to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're telling you to do things, but that's
don't do any of it.
No. I mean, but then also
the Jameson.
Don't aim too high. Don't say you're going to write a novel in quarantine. That's not going to happen. But you can write...
You're not Shakespeare.
You can write a page a day, right? You can write 50 words a day or something like that. Whatever you think you can do, just lower your expectations.
Yeah. And I found hanging out with pets helps. Do you have any pets?
I do not. But I can imagine they would. They're very therapeutic in general.
Right. So obviously, if you have a pet, I'm sure he's wondering why you're not at work. And
dogs are loving this quarantine, though.
Yeah, more attention, sure.
Yeah.
But some dogs are. I guess my cat Gary, he's ready for me to go back to work. He's pretty annoyed.
He's very antisocial.
Yes. So let's do the list.
Yeah, sure.
So I made a kind of.
I'm just gonna point out I'm wearing the mask as a joke. Like we don't have to wear the masks.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Yeah, it's things here are looking up, I'd say, as far as being around people and going to public places. There hasn't been any new cases in a long time, so it's pretty.
The masks are more just to make people feel better when you're outside. They're more for a public thing anyway. Certainly not indoors.
Yeah,